Hey guys, so today is December 3rd, and this was the first day of the PTR, and I've been watching a lot of videos. It's getting kind of late, it's 9:45, and I've been doing this since about 9 a.m. this morning, so 12 hours of pretty much just playing Heroes of the Storm, watching replays, playing Heroes of the Storm, and there's several changes in this patch, and I think this is the biggest gameplay change patch we've seen in the last 2 years. And I'm going to explain why. There are three major reasons and one minor reason on why I think this is the biggest change. So I'm going to go through these and then I'm going to talk about them. So let's start going through this. Firstly, there were some art changes, mainly to the Stitches and Sylvanas effects, nothing big. The armor change. In my opinion, this was I would say probably the third biggest, fourth biggest. I don't know. Probably the fourth biggest change. And what they did was they made it to where armor can't stack anymore, which is a really good change for us. It's something that we have needed for a while, especially in the pro scene, as a lot of heroes have been armor stacking. In order to compensate, they did buff pretty much everyone who had a problem with armor stacking or just small pieces of armor that were likely grouped up with another group. So they didn't kind of buff anyone that had large amounts of armor already, but mainly all the ones that are like small pieces of armor have all been buffed a little bit to make them a little bit stronger. But you will need to worry about overlapping armor in case your white main pops an ult. You don't want to waste your ability at the same time that gives armor. I'm going to skip through most of it because generally you can look at these on your own. They brought like Uther, his armor back up and all that. They made the Catapult changes. When you destroy a fort, you summon a Catapult every third wave. I want to really talk about this. This is actually a very large change. So if this was the fourth biggest change, the Catapults is probably the third biggest change. And I want to show you guys a video clip of why this might be a really, really bad change. So keep watching for the later in this video, as this could be something that can make or break this whole patch, and we'll talk about that later. Experience changes. They removed the part where you would gain experience from killing a mercenary that the enemies have already captured, and now they made it to where to speed this up. You remove all the experience from destroying a fort or keep. You get half the experience, so 125 experience from taking out a tower. Passive experience has been increased by 15%. That'll compensate for most of this, but not quite all of it. However, destroying a mercenary now gains twice as much experience. So the main priority now is going to be kills, objectives, and mercenaries. But mainly, if you're going for experience, it's going to be mercenaries in the early game, and it's going to be kills in the late game. Those are your main ways to get experience now. Winning objectives still gets you closer to winning the game, so you're still going to try to win all of them. However, you could have someone, instead of split pushing an off lane during an objective, you could instead just have someone go and get camps during the objective, and you'll end up with a net high or a net gain, a net positive in experience compared to the objective a lot of times, but you'll get further behind in terms of actually winning the game. Decent change. I'd like to see a lot more play with these changes before I put too much emphasis on it, but this was probably the number one change that was done. Down to here, this is the number two change. And this, to be only one line of text, scares me a little bit, and it scared someone else. So I'm going to show you what this actually means. They pretty much just said unit radius values of heroes have been reduced. That means the hitbox. The little circle at the bottom of your hero that says whether or not you get hit by an ability, that circle is now smaller for the majority of heroes. Here's a list of heroes. That's bright. Here's a list of heroes. Kael'thas has a 20% reduction. Alexstrasza, 17% reduction. Ariel, 17% reduction. Several heroes. So why I say this is the second biggest change to happen in this patch is because 90% of the heroes in this game have skill shot abilities. Those skill shot abilities have to hit within those hitboxes, and if they don't, then that ability doesn't do whatever it was supposed to do. With some abilities having situational things, like if they hit in the middle. For example, Brightwing. if everyone's smaller now, that nerfs her entire Q build. As her entire Q build, she has to hit the middle to get that value. So Brightwing's win rate will probably drop by a couple percent, especially if Brightwing doesn't actually have that large of a decrease. Now, an 8% decrease in hitbox, is that going to be enough to increase her win rate by dodging more abilities? Or is it still going to hurt her so bad because her healing is tied to landing her Q in the middle to be able to heal extra and keep up with healing on Brightwing? It's crazy. So with all these people, there's so many heroes that are getting pretty major nerfs just because of this change. We didn't see any sort of numbers boost to add to this, though. That was kind of the problem, is with the armor change, we saw this huge change to armor, so then they buffed all of those heroes to compensate. We're seeing this huge change to radiuses, but we're not seeing a buff to Li Ming, to Kel'Thuzad, to Ana. I mean, Ana, she's like really small now, so I guess she's going to get a pretty big buff just because of that. But we're not seeing buffs to any of these skill shot heroes to compensate for those changes. So this could be a really bad thing. Now, it could be a good thing, as it might make it to where we need a little bit more skilled players. People can't just fire off abilities so haphazardly anymore. We might need more combos where people do like a taunt on a Varian comboed with a Li Ming. But I'd like to see some cooldown reduction and some mana cost reduction to heroes who are firing more skill shots to compensate for the fact that they're going to be missing more skill shots. Don't increase the damage flat, because combos are going to be way too broken if they just increase the damage flat. But generally, this change is actually pretty big. And I really want to give a thank you to Mindhawk. He's a Europe Grandmaster player. He focuses mainly on skill shot heroes, in particularly, mainly Kel'Thuzad, and he's been kind of an active member of my community, so I really want to thank him for that. But I also want to thank him for going through and coming up with all of these and making this post on Reddit so we can kind of see what all of the changes were. And he went through and manually checked everyone's hitboxes to see how much they've increased or decreased, and well, I mean, they've all decreased, and it is crazy. Like, even Cho'Gall's went down by a little bit. Every single, like, not every single hero, a lot of the heroes went down, a decent chunk of the roster. So thank you again, Mindhawk, for that, and everyone, I'll put the link of this post in the description so you can see if your hero has been reduced in hitbox. Now, on to the Catapult change. Let's go back up to the Catapult. So when your team destroys a fort, you'll summon a Catapult every third minion wave. So we just destroyed a fort here in mid lane in this game. And so this is the first wave that spawns after we destroyed the fort, and it summoned a Catapult on the first wave. We are 2 levels ahead of the enemy, 10 kills to 4 kills. We're about to pretty much just hard push top lane, and we're going to take that so we can take the fountain before the next objective. So we're going to have 2 forts down at the start of this objective. Right here, this is really what I wanted to talk about. So watch how much soak red team gets and how much soak blue team gets. Let me fast forward to 4. And I'm just going to count it on my hand how many waves each team gets. Let me make sure that these are correct. So red team here, blue team here. All right? So neither team has gotten any soak yet. Red team, 1 wave of soak. Another wave of soak. Another wave of soak. Blue team, half of a wave of soak. We're going to count it, though. Do you see how this is staying on red side of the field, and how this Catapult isn't actually getting any value? It's just making it to where blue team can actually soak this. Now, there are 3 waves here. All of them die except for 1, so there's 4 waves of soak, 5 waves of soak. And I want to stop right there. So, look at the experience for a second. Even amount of kills. But we have more structures. I'm on blue team, by the way. We have more structures than red team does. We've taken more camps than red team has. And we've won, well, up until this point, we've won more objectives than them. And yet they have almost a full level lead. I mean, 70% of a level lead on us. They've gotten 5 waves of soak that we haven't gotten. because the Catapult kept the lane pushed in this area. So at first, I was like, these Catapult changes seem really good, because generally what they do is they apply pressure inside lanes. So while you don't get the experience, you get closer to winning the game. I think that's a great answer to the problem that we had, where we would whoever won the first objective would naturally have an experience lead that would win every other objective. They've solved that problem. They've made it to where even if you lose the first objective, you're still in the game. The problem that they've created now is that there's almost more of a benefit to not take a middle fort, even if you have the opportunity to take it, purely because you're going to keep the experience on their side of the map the entire game. This is a major problem because it's making it detrimental to actually take forts. We might see pro teams take the towers and then get a fort down to 10% health and never take the fort again, because they don't want to take it until you get to late game when the catapults scale much better. In the early game, all the catapults are doing is kind of pushing the lane over and keeping it on the opposite team's side of the field. This is actually making it harder to carry this game because you don't want to actually take forts to be advantageous in the game. I don't know the exact way that they can solve this problem. It's going to be something that I want to put a little bit more thought into and possibly make a video dedicated specifically to this problem. But there should never be a point where you don't want to take a fort. That should never be something that is a question where you go, oh, well, it'll actually be bad for us to take a fort. That shouldn't be a thing. This game is about winning objectives and using those objectives to gain value, usually structure value. We should never have it to where these catapults will make it harder to do what you're trying to do. Anyways, guys, that is all I wanted to talk about on this particular patch. The major 4 changes, I guess 3 changes. The experience change, I'm optimistic about. I like the fact that you don't just lose an objective and lose the rest of the game because you lost that objective. That's cool. I'm optimistic. There's some things that need to be changed. The next thing, the size changes. They need to do some balance changes to make this work, but I could see it working. The third thing, these catapults, something needs to be fixed on these, or maybe I just had a really bad luck this game, and I think the easiest way to fix this is giving more heroes long-range wave clear so that they can clear this safely, but then that also creates a problem of double soaking and all that, so I'll come up with a better answer for that. And the fourth change that was kind of more minor but still pretty important was the armor stacking change. Generally was really good. The rest of this patch had a lot of really great UI changes. A lot of the armor reductions, armor adding, healing reductions are a lot more bright, vivid, and can be seen clearly. So generally, I love this patch. There's just a couple things I'm a little concerned about, and until they fix those, we might have a bit of a rough month or two until all of these changes start coming through. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you again, Mindhawk. I'll throw your link in the description below. And for everyone else, I do have a Patreon if you want to support me through there. It does also give some exclusive content to all of the patrons, some videos that are posted a little bit early, etc., 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 whatever, all that stuff. But yeah, so you don't need to support me that way. If you just want to keep watching my videos, I appreciate that. Share my videos is always one of the best things. Whenever I see my videos shared on either a Discord that I pop into and I see my video, I love that. So anything that you can do, I really appreciate it, guys. You've been awesome. Thank you again for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos.